Where does it all go down? Where can I go in this town? Where do all the boys hang around? At the Yoko Cigar Lounge, yeah. I'm stepping out tonight. I'm gonna go watch the fight. I'll smoke one for you.
Welcome to Owen Cigar Lounge. I'm Chuck, also known as Blue, and you're cigaring with Chuck. If you hear a little bit of noise today, we got some chainsaws and some hammers going in the back. We got people coming through the doors bringing in material. We're doing a little remodeling. Today we have with us Mr. Owen Seaton of the Chattanooga Football Club. Is that MLS?
No, that is NISA.
NISA?
Yep.
Professional soccer. How'd you get into that?
I've been in sports for 25 plus years now. I was at University of Tennessee at Chattanooga for about 10 years, and while I was there, this was in the early 2000s, I got to know the owner of CFC pretty well. Left town for a few years, and when the gig I was on there ended, called him up, and he'd been kind of after me to come back for a while and work with him, and just the timing was right, so we've been back in town about a year.
Yeah, we're going to get more into that, but before we do, let's tell everyone what we're smoking. A Rocky Patel 50th anniversary cigar, which is a really good cigar. I've had this one before. It's a celebratory cigar. Rocky Patel turned 50 in 2011, and this is the cigar that he made to celebrate that 50th anniversary.
I turned 50 this year, Chuck. You didn't make me a cigar.
Well, we're gonna smoke a good one. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll do something really good on your birthday.
Oh, it already happened.
Oh,
so you missed it.
We missed it.
That's okay.
My bad. We'll get you next year.
All right, 51 will be a good one.
So, where did you go to school?
High school, college, what?
Where are you from? Let's start from there.
So my father was in the military, so I grew up all over the world. He was in the Army for 28 years, and he retired the year after I graduated from high school. So most of my high school, well, all of my high school years, but most of my formative years were in the Washington, D.C. area. So that was, what I called at the time called home. I graduated from high school in 1987 and then came to Chattanooga for the first time in 87 and was playing baseball at a college named Tennessee Temple University, which is down in Chattanooga. It doesn't exist anymore. Was there for a couple of years. Had a couple of injuries and couldn't play anymore, and after a few surgeries, and got into video production as a way to keep my scholarship and all of that, and that turned into a career in sports video that's been going since the early 90s.
That's good. Oh, and I can't help but notice this lighter that you have here. Can I touch it?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about this?
Sure. So that is my grandfather's Zippo. My father bought it when he was in Vietnam. He served in the Vietnam War.
There's a name at the top.
Yep, and he went on leave to Thailand. It's got the Thai religious iconography on it, embossed on it, and he bought it for his dad, had it engraved with his name, and brought it back for him as a gift. And my grandfather passed away in the early 70s. I was a very small child, so I didn't really even know him all that well. My dad passed away about 4 years ago almost, and that was found that in a desk drawer of my dad. And it was in two pieces, and it had fallen apart, and the hasp on it was broke. And my brother for Christmas this year took it to a silversmith and had them fix it and had the clasp redone. And I took the insert out and put the butane insert in.
And that's nice.
For
it has
cigars.
A little weight on it too.
Yeah, sterling silver. So yeah, it's got some. So it's the only thing that belonged to my grandfather that still exists in the world that we know of. So yeah, it is. It is now for sure.
Well, just keep telling me about this broadcasting stuff that you did.
Sure. So I have worked in sports video now for a while. Started out producing television shows like coaches shows. I went to grad school at Virginia Commonwealth in Richmond, Virginia. While I was there, I worked on the Jeff Capel was the basketball coach there. Was the head coach at VCU then, so I worked on his TV show for a couple years while I was in grad school, and that just kind of got me into the TV side of things. Came down and was at UTC for almost 10 years, producing all of the coaches shows, the video board, in-venue video board shows, all of that stuff for 10 years, as well as like all the social video and all of that. Started freelancing on bigger projects like the Olympics, and I was in Qatar for a month doing the Arab Games. Went to Europe doing a lot of soccer, and most of that was the in-venue video, like the jumbotrons, the in-venue video board shows, producing that. So it's all live production.
So when they have that video, we're talking soccer, but say football, and they have that big jumbotron up there, and that stuff that's on that jumbotron, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, so that's a live production. That's a separate production from the TV. You normally would have in a big show, like if you went to a Falcons game or a Titans game or something, like you would have all of the cameras from the TV show, that what people at home are seeing on TV, but then you'd have additional cameras that just belong to the jumbotron show. You'd have separate graphics. You'd have a whole different production, a whole different rundown of what you need to cover, because like when you see the instant replays, they always have a sponsor on them, or they have like, hey, we're in the red zone, and the red zone's brought to you by Coey Cigar Lounge, so you see a logo and all of that. So that's the production that I've specialized in for a while now.
What do you think about this cigar?
It's good. It's got some coffee kind of flavors to it that I like a lot. I had one of these, but it's been a long time. It's been years, and I'm trying to. I didn't remember when you said this is what we're going to smoke. I didn't remember what it tasted like. But,
I told you it's going to be
it's good.
Surprise. It is. I was thinking it had like I don't know if it's a little chocolate creamy or something. Maybe that's the coffee you're talking about, the creamy coffee. Or maybe it's the Oreos I was eating for breakfast that I'm tasting. But anyway, it's complemented it well. Got a nice draw to it.
It does. I like the box press too. I always like, like Padron does this a lot. But, I like the bigger box press cigars.
Yeah.
You get a cigar that's big that has that squared off, feel.
I like it also.
Chattanooga Football Club started back in 2009 and plays at the same stadium that UTC football plays at. So back when that team started in 2009, back when the club started, I was working at UTC, and we were doing the video board at the stadium and doing a lot of TV show production and things around that. And so when the team started, they asked us to do the video board for their games and some other things. And so that first season back in 2009, we did that. Got to know the ownership group and the board members of the club pretty well during that time, and I've known them now for 12 years or so. It's a couple of them I actually even knew before that, just kind of socially. And the chairman of the board of the club is Tim Kelly, who's running for mayor Chattanooga right now. Been a friend of mine for a long time. So we just while I was at UTC, which I was there until 14, so I was there for the first 5-6 years of CFC. Was interacting with Tim and the board members quite a bit. Fell in with a couple of other customers of yours that are friends that we interacted with through work, and that's how we ended up coming up to OCL, which I come up from Chattanooga, usually at least once a week to hang out with the guys up here and have a cigar.
It's amazing what a cigar do. It'll bring everything together, won't it?
For sure.
Owen, we always say that we're not cigar aficionados here. We're cigar enthusiasts. Now, I happen to know that you know a lot about cigars. You're an actual aficionado.
Yeah, I think that probably applies. It's my one remaining vice. I don't drink, so I smoke good cigars. When I was in college, I had a friend that smoked good cigars that kind of introduced me a little bit, and then when I went to grad school, I worked at a tinderbox, which I don't even know if they exist anymore, but there used to be a nationwide chain of cigar shops and tobacco stores called Tinderbox, where they were in malls, and you could go get cigars, and you could go get pipe tobacco or whatever and stuff. And this was in the early 90s, so the cigar boom, the first cigar boom hadn't really happened yet. It was starting to happen. And so that, at the time there weren't as many boutique brands as there are now. There was just kind of the main brands from like General Cigar, like Macanudo and H. Upman, and Fuente was starting to get big, but they hadn't even introduced Opus yet. Got to understand at the time what were the highest end cigars that were available in the U.S. The Partagas 150s had just come out, which was a big thing. There was this stash of aged tobacco that they had found that it was like 20 plus years old, that they made some really good high-end cigars out of. Opus X I was working there when Opus X just got released, and so that was obviously the first big like ultra premium Dominican cigar available in the U.S. And then as my career progressed and I was traveling all over the place, anytime I would go somewhere in a city I'd never been or whatever and had some free time, I'd go find like the best cigar shop in town and just see what they had, see what was new, because everything's distribution-wise is different.
You'd always find the best cigar lounges.
Yeah, and that was at the time, kind of coincided at the time where it became harder to find places to smoke. And so when I would travel, I would always try to find a cigar shop. Cigar lounges really weren't a thing yet. There were still a lot of restaurants that still allowed cigar smoking, like high-end steakhouses or whatever sometimes, that would let you have a cigar, in the restaurant. But if you wanted a place that you knew when you were out of town that you could go have a cigar, you would find the oldest, especially if you're in a big city, you'd find the oldest cigar shop that had been around for 50, 75 years, and you knew you could go there, have a cigar. Back then, they were all still newsstands, too, so they would have, like, newspapers from all over and stuff, magazines. And so you sit there and have a cigar and talk to whoever was behind the counter and find out what they've got that's new or whatever their house cigar was. And that's kind of how I got into exploring different stuff. And then when I started traveling internationally, then it's like a whole new world because, Cuban cigars everywhere. And not only that, but even the selection of what they would call New World cigars, but cigars from this part of the country, Central South America, are different than what we get here.
A cigar bring it together, won't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's especially like right now with COVID and everything. Everybody's working remotely, so your chances to come to a place like this with your laptop, get some work done. You never know who you're going to meet, strike up a conversation with, get a business deal done. We've gotten new sponsors that have come into the soccer team from people that I've met in cigar lounges.
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just almost like a country club. It's a place to meet and find people that you already have a common interest with. So my title is Chief Marketing Officer, but it's really kind of we're a really small operation. We have 5 full-time employees. So I head the marketing efforts, which means ticket sales and all of those things. Advertising, ticket sales, but it also involves like all the broadcast operations. So all of our games are live on YouTube. The league has a TV deal through BN Sports, which I supervise for the league because of my broadcast background. But and inside those broadcasts, we have obligations to sponsors that we need to make sure happen, and so I kind of supervise that effort of it. But it's really because we're a small operation. Everybody has their hands in a little bit of everything. I mean, it's just like your job. Like you're in charge of marketing for this place.
Yeah.
It's not your title, but you have to. You're in charge of it, right?
Give me your final thoughts on this cigar. So
it has kind of gotten creamier, I think, a little bit, and I'm getting a little bit of that chocolate that you talked about before. It's kind of cocoa.
Ecuadorian wrapper?
Yeah, I like it. And Nicaraguan, which, I mean, Rocky does a lot of stuff with Nicaraguan filler, and I like it. It's good. I would definitely smoke this again.
Yeah, I would too. I gotta stay out of it. I won't have any sale.
I could never have your job. I would smoke up all the profit.
Hey, I tell you what we do here. Abu Swafford and myself, owners, we pay for our cigars. We sold it. We're not going in and just grabbing cigars and smoking. We pay for our cigars like everyone else do. For now, anyway. I mean, after we start making some really good money, I'm gonna take a whole box home with me. Hey, you've been cigaring with Chuck and Owen Seaton. We appreciate your time. Come down and see us at Ocoee Cigar Lounge, Cleveland, Tennessee, 246 North Ocoee Street. Smoking the Rocky Patel 50th anniversary.